74 years ago, 17 sailors from Nebraska and western Iowa died during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Their remains, among hundreds unidentified, were presumed to be buried with the other unknown casualties in the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific in Honolulu. Lindsay Thies shows us the effort to identify every unknown sailor with a Nebraska connection.
December 7th, 1941. A date which will live in infamy.
From that day of infamy to today, at a lab inside an old World War II bomber assembly plant at Offutt Air Force Base, a team is working to identify and return remains from the hundreds aboard the USS Oklahoma to their families. This spring, the Pentagon disinterred 61 caskets holding the remains of up to 388 unidentified USS Oklahoma service members. Their dental records examined at a lab in Hawaii. The bones transferred here to a lab for the Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency.
The process to identify the Oklahoma remains is a slow but steady one. After more than 7 decades, they want to get it right. But time is only one of the challenges that this team faces. On average, one exhumed casket can carry several bundles of remains, and that can represent even more people.
When we look further with DNA and with anthropology, we realize that there's actually a lot of commingling happening. And so to take the 2003 casket, for the one that we brought out in 2003 as an example, that casket with 5 bundles had 95 mitochondrial DNA sequences.
Carrie Brown is a forensic anthropologist. Think of her like a mix between a detective, a historian, and a scientist. She uses many pieces to identify the remains. Things like personal effects can help identify the remains, mixed with everything from past military records and DNA.
While we can't go inside the lab, these cases are all active and it's very sensitive. I can describe to you what it looks like. Inside there are more than 40 tables with thousands of bones, each one individually tagged. Right now, anthropologists are going through, they're sorting, identifying, and tagging each bone.
The Oklahoma is solvable.
Solvable, but slow and complex. Worth it, though, Brown says. Just last month, the Nebraska and Hawaii labs ID'd the remains of 7 more sailors.
But it's a very complex process, and when thinking about the families and doing the work for the families, you want to do it right for the families.
At Offutt Air Force Base, Lindsay Thies, KMTV Action 3 News.
Fascinating work. Officials expect to identify about 80% of the Oklahoma crew members still considered missing within 5 years.